monopoly and makes good profit, and also trading at 15 times earnings, Uber. What's your thought on the long-term view of Uber?
Well, Uber specifically, I don't have Bowling might have a view, stock specific from like Fast Money and Uber, no. But I do, I do know about the history and not stock specific, is that the company has turned itself around. So not from an AI perspective, but I know it had like a toxic culture for some time. The CEO had issues, and they've worked that out in terms of management. Yes, they face a lot of competition in that space. I think about like when I go to New York, I know that they just put that car tax or something. If you want to drive in the city now, they charge you a lot of money. But I think maybe, I could be wrong, Uber and of course the cabs are excluded from that. Things like that could boost their business. If you look at, and again, no matter where you stand politically, but reducing carbon emissions and making the world a cleaner place, Uber's the answer, and ride shares like Lyft and stuff like that. So, and Tesla, again, regardless of what you think of Elon Musk. I mean, the guy's just trying to balance the budget, with Doge, but I don't know. People love to hate him. So, no, I mean, I don't know where Uber's stock is right now, which I apologize. I'll take a look right when we finish. I do want to take a look at the chart. I don't see any potential issues with it, and I think it would benefit from AI going forward. I'm sorry, I don't know more. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more over here.
Yeah, sure, Mike.
Do you think that nuclear energy is going to be pushed during this Trump administration?
Pushed down?
Up.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it will be decided on how much the president can push forward his agenda and domestic energy policies. That's a big push, like Exxon, for example, and Chevron. Those U.S. domestic energy plays, I think, will be big beneficiaries, because prior to about 4 years ago, we exported a whole lot more than we imported. So, I mean, the price of oil or gas, what matters to you is not the price of oil. It matters when you go and you fill up your car at the end of the day. Are you paying $4 a gallon or $2 a gallon? And so I do think oil prices will head lower in this administration under a president like President Trump. But where we go after that, there's no telling. But with Tesla, Uber, like you mentioned, I think we are trying to position ourselves, away from being such big oil domestic consumers, but the world runs on oil right now, and it's not a light switch you can flip it on and off and say tomorrow. I mean, plastic is made, like everything that's plastic, oil. I think the Vaseline I put on my eyes at night to get my makeup off is like petroleum. Not that you guys didn't know that. But my point is, like, wow, when you really sit down and think of it, the whole world runs on oil. You kind of can't live without it. It's like a necessary, I don't want to call it evil, but it is what it is. Yeah. Okay, good? Thank you guys. I'm here. I'll follow up about Uber.